Hey guys, so welcome back to Paradise Lost in Books. I'm Christy, and today I am here to talk to you about a book. And that book is Cress by Marissa Meyer. I finished reading this like forever ago, but as you probably know by now, my life has been crazy. I went to California, I'm buying a house. It's a lot of stuff going on at once, guys. But I'm finally getting around to doing my book talk on this book. So, for those of you who don't know, Cress is the third book in the Lunar Chronicles series. The Lunar Chronicles is a series of sci-fi fairy tale retellings, and Cress is a Rapunzel retelling. Instead of a girl being locked in a tower, it is a girl who is locked in a satellite orbiting the Earth, and I can't really tell you a whole lot more than that without spoiling Cinder and Scarlet, so go away and read those books if you haven't yet. If you've read the first two books but you haven't read Cress, this story picks up kind of where Scarlet left off. Cinder and the gang are in the Rampion, trying to figure out what their next move is going to be, how they're going to stop the wedding. Cress reaches out to them, and they're going to make a rescue attempt to try and go get her, but everything goes a little crazy, and the group ends up being split up. So we really get to see the characters kind of trying to figure out how to do their own thing, and how they're going to get back to each other, but also stop Queen Lavanna at the same time. That's really all I got for you, non-spoilery guys, so go away so I can talk about spoilers. If you have not read Cress, go read it, come back, and let's talk spoilers. Okay, so first let's talk about the things I liked about this book, which there were a lot. Like most people, Cress was my favorite in the series so far. Usually I enjoy having unpopular opinions, but as far as this goes, I'm okay with being in the majority. Cress is definitely my favorite in the series so far. So Cress, what a fun, refreshing character. It's not often in a YA series that you get a character who is super badass and capable, but also a little like lighter and more like, she's not so serious all the time. She's very much, her heads are in the clouds, she's daydreamy, she's obsessed with like movies and stories, and she's, you know, that kind of person, and she's just very like lighthearted, you know? And that's so refreshing because she's definitely a badass. Like, she's a hacker. She can hack circles around literally anyone, to the point where the queen forgave her for being a shell and allowed her to live. The queen doesn't usually let shells live, but she does hacking and spy work for the queen. Like, she's on a whole nother level. But then when it comes to like action scenes, she's not like, she's hiding and she's scared and she doesn't really know what to do, and she kind of depends on everyone around her. And some may see that as a flaw, but I see it as a strength because it's refreshing to have a female character who can be a different type of badass. Not all badass female characters have to be able to literally kick your ass. So it's nice that we have a diverse group of women and characters in general in the core group. And she's such a great foil to Thorne. Like, they're a great couple, but mostly because they are foils of each other. Like, she's obsessed with fairy tales, and she creates stories in her mind, and she sees Thorne as this hero character, and he's very much like a Flynn writer, which is appropriate as this is a Rapunzel retelling, but he's like, I'm not a hero, I'm not a good guy, you know, he's practical, he does what he has to do to survive, and he takes care of himself first and foremost. So he's very much like Flynn Rider in that regard, and it just makes it really interesting to see how their relationship grows together, and how he has to rely on her when he loses his eyesight, and how she has to try to learn from him, and they have to learn to trust each other, which is really hard for Cress because she's not been exposed to the human world and Earth very much, so she doesn't really have those social skills, and she doesn't really know what she's doing. It also makes for some really funny moments, like the moments where she's expecting some big romantic gesture and then he just like shakes her. Those moments are so funny. But then it makes it even more exciting at the end when he gives her her big romantic kiss because he thinks they're about to die because everything is going crazy. So they just had a really fun relationship. I had such a good time reading about them. I like that in this one we broke up the group. Like, obviously I would like to have some time seeing everyone together, but some of the characters I don't like as much as others, and it's just nice to be able to break the story up into segments and not try to have to figure out what's going on in everyone's mind about what situations are happening around them. So we have Cress and Thorne. They crash in the desert and they have to find their way back to civilization. We have Cinder and Wolf. Fucking Wolf. and Wolf is injured, and Cinder has to get him help. Oh, and there's also Jocund. There's this pilot from Lunar who serves the princess, and it's funny because you think he's talking about Princess Celine, but then at the end there's like this awkward situation, and it's like, no, he's talking about Princess Winter. But he's a very like strange character. So we have him and Cinder and Wolf, and she's got to figure out if she can trust Jocund and get Wolf some help. So she hooks back up with Dr. Erland. And then we have Scarlet, who's been kidnapped by Sybil and taken to Lunar. So with Cinder's group, it was really fun in a bad way, I guess, to kind of see Cinder struggle a little bit, because I feel like too many times in YA novels, the heroine is just like, happens to luckily make the right choice, or she just has natural leadership abilities and does what's right for everyone because she's just that kind of person. But we really see Cinder struggle with like, what do I actually do right now? She has no idea what to do. She's lost, confused, she's torn between a bunch of different decisions, and we really see the pressure of those decisions on her, and that really makes for great character development with her. And I think it's gonna contribute to her relationship with Kai, who is also like his own separate POV in this book. But I think it's going to help her understand him and him understand her, because they both have these expectations they feel like they have to live up to. So they can really empathize with each other in that regard. Poor Scarlet. Like, I didn't really care for her story that much, the second book, but like, holy crap, I definitely would not have wished this on her. Like, she's at Lunar and she's being tortured by the queen. I think she has like a finger cut off or something. It's just wild. And she meets Princess Winter, who is this very strange character, like very, very weird. So we really don't know how Winter's gonna play in. I know the last book is Winter, or the last main book is Winter, so obviously we're gonna see more of her, which I'm excited for, because she's a very different type of character, and I like how diverse the cast of characters is and is becoming. So I'm definitely interested to see more of her. I really hope she helps Scarlet out, because Scarlet needs a friend. Oh, and speaking of Dr. Erland, going back a little bit, there were so many crazy reveals with him in this book. Like, we have the reveal that he was part of the research team that created the wolf experiment that Wolf is part of, and the big reveal that Cress is actually his daughter. Cress was taken from Dr. Erland and his wife because she was a shell, and usually shells are killed, and so all this time Dr. Erland has thought she was dead, but he discovers that when she comes in with Thorne, when Cress and Thorne finally meet up with Cinder and the rest of the gang, he sees her and he's like, holy crap, my daughter's alive. And it's so sad because he dies. The letumosis virus is mutating to where Lunars can actually catch it, and he catches it, and he freaking dies, and it's so sad. And I feel like that scene was handled very well, because it could have been emotionally overdone. It could have been Cress being like, I love you too, father, some like overbaked shit, but I feel like she handled it really well, because Cress doesn't know this guy. She's like, that's my dad, and then he's dead. Like, she never got to know him, so I feel like the fact that it was mostly Cress being confused and scared, as opposed to like emotional and like sobbing for her dead father, like, I feel like that was a much better way to handle that scene, and you know, Marissa Meyer did a great job with that. I love that Thorne gets Aiko a body. That was such a great scene. He's such an awesome guy for doing that. It just shows he really is a good guy and a hero deep down inside, and getting to see more of Aiko was really fun. She's just a sassy, fantastic character. I just love everything about Aiko, and nothing bad better happen to her or I'm gonna be really mad. I also really love the scene when the village people are helping Cinder escape. They all come together and kind of protect her, and it just kind of shows how things are changing, you know. Cinder is very much seen as like a savior instead of this bad person who has to be contained. Like, everyone sees her as a criminal, and these village people come together and they're willing to die, which is what happens at the end. Queen Lavanna destroys the village. They're willing to die for her, and I think it's just kind of setting the stage for how she's finally getting a foothold and finally going to be able to do the right thing and knock Queen Lavanna out of power and save the people of Earth. I just have to say how hilarious it was when Kai was like, I think that Cinder has found the lost princess. And he was just like so serious about it. He was like, I think Cinder's found the lost princess. Holy crap. And it's like, Well, kind of. Not exactly. Speaking of which, the whole ending scene was just fantastic. I love the conversation and the kiss between Kai and Cinder at the end. Cinder felt very unsure of herself and very awkward, and that came through really well in the writing. It didn't feel forced, it didn't feel out of character, it was really well done. And they just have so much honesty between them. I love how, even though they're both kind of wary of each other, and they're like, is he lying to me? Is she lying to me? Is she using her gift on me? They both trust each other. He tells her when she was like, well, I'm sorry I didn't tell you I was a cyborg, but you probably wouldn't have talked to me. He's like, yeah, you're probably right. You know, he doesn't try and like lie and make excuses. He's like, yeah, actually, now that you mention it, I probably wouldn't have talked to you again if you had just been like, hey, BT dubs, I'm a cyborg. And also the fact that he just believes her when she says that she's the princess. He doesn't like fly into an emotional fury or antagonize her or question her or refuse to believe her. He's just like, wow, seriously? That actually kind of makes sense. Like, it was just a very refreshing scene. I love the honesty and the openness between them. And I just really like how their relationship progressed. I just felt like it's all been very believable and well written. There isn't too much angst. There's a little bit of pining, but it was never like the main focus. I just felt it was really well done. It was very enjoyable to read. Backtracking past that, I totally skipped over the wedding scene, which was like the best climax from all of the books. The wedding breakout scene was epic. I loved seeing how each different person was contributing to the plan and how Wolf and Cress were down here hacking and Cinder and Dr. Erlin were doing their thing. Just like everybody was doing their own thing and it all worked so perfectly. It was such a great plan. It sucks that Sybil came in at the end and tried to screw everything up, but at least she got what was coming to her. But I just really enjoyed the wedding breakout scene. Like, it was so much fun. A lot of times with POV books, multiple POV books, it can feel overweighted with POVs or unnecessary, but despite the number of POVs, it was really fluid. I never felt bogged down by characters or anything like that. You know, I thought it was very homogenous. It made sense to do it this way. There's really only a couple of things I disliked, one of them being Wolf. I just don't think I'm ever gonna like his character. He's annoying, he's needy, he's ruled by his emotions, he charges headfirst into fighting. Like, Cinder explicitly told him, like, dude, stay here because you can get mind controlled and you will destroy all of us if you do. And what does he do? Herp to derp, I gotta go save Scarlet, and just runs in there, and what happens? He starts attacking people, because of course he does. Because that's what happens when you can be mind controlled so easily, stupid idiot. Like, he should have a little bit more respect for his power and a little bit more sense of responsibility on how to wield that power, because it's helpful, but it can also be turned against his allies, and he needs to be aware of that, and it's super irritating that he isn't. Also, Jocelyn, I don't know how to feel about this guy. Like, I feel like he's definitely a hero character. He's gonna be a good guy, but I just hate the flip-flopping and how you're never really sure. It irritates me when it takes a lot of back and forth to get to the bottom of who a character really is. It's one of the reasons I don't like Rumpelstiltskin on Once Upon a Time anymore. It's like, oh, I'm the dark one. Oh, wait, I'm redeemed, except now I feel the pull of the dark side again. But Belle helps me overcome it. But, oh no, then this happened. Just like, oh, constant back and forth. And it's like, can we just maybe stop after one or two back and forths? Like, I don't know. I'm just having a hard time getting a read on him, and it irritates me because I think I know how he's gonna go, but it's just hard to tell. You know, his motives are purely his own, which is a good thing, I guess, but it's also frustrating for me as a reader to try and figure out who he is, because I like to know things. So overall, I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. It was definitely my favorite in the series. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm really looking forward to the next installment. I think this is a fantastic, fun world with an amazing cast of characters who all have wonderful, distinct personalities, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, guys. Let me know in the comments down below how you felt about Cress. Do you agree with me, disagree with me? Did I forget something that you wanted to hear about? Let me know what you think. I hope you will like, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!